The quiet geometry of money. Why wealth is made in silence, lost in noise, and recovered in cycles. Part 1. The illusion of chaos. Why markets look random to those who listen to noise. Chapter 1. The market is not wild. Markets are not random. They only pretend to be. To the untrained eye, price movement looks like weather. Sudden storms, unexpected calms, violent shifts with no warning. Screens flicker, numbers jump, headlines contradict themselves within hours. Commentators argue. Experts revise their views in public. The impression is chaos. A living thing thrashing without pattern. But this impression is misleading. What looks wild is usually unobserved order. Markets are not governed by mystery. They are governed by people, and people, for all their complexity, repeat themselves with remarkable consistency. Fear returns. Confidence overextends. Memory fades. Discipline erodes. Then, inevitably, consequences arrive. The cycle does not require belief. It does not care who understands it. It continues whether watched or ignored. The idea that markets are unpredictable is comforting. It absolves us of responsibility. If outcomes are random, then losses are bad luck and gains are genius. But randomness is not what ruins portfolios. Misalignment is. What most people experience as volatility is not danger. It is movement without context. A market moving down is not the same as a market breaking. A market moving up is not the same as a market offering opportunity. Without context, every fluctuation feels urgent. With context, most of them feel irrelevant. This is the first quiet truth of money. Noise is not information. The modern investor is surrounded by signals but starved of meaning. Data is abundant. Insight is scarce. We are told what happened seconds ago, not what phase we are in. We are shown price, not pressure. Motion, not direction. The result is a constant sense of being late. Late to buy. Late to sell. Late to understand. This anxiety drives activity, and activity is mistaken for intelligence. But movement does not equal progress. In markets, it often signals the opposite. The market is not wild. It is rhythmic. It expands when confidence grows faster than caution. It contracts when fear outpaces patience. It pauses when conviction is exhausted on both sides. These rhythms have names: booms, busts, recoveries, but the labels matter less than the behavior beneath them. Each phase carries a psychological signature. Each one rewards a different temperament, and each one punishes the same mistake, acting out of phase. Most investors do not lose money because they lack knowledge. They lose money because they arrive emotionally unprepared for the phase they are in. They feel confident when caution is required. They feel afraid when courage is rewarded. They feel urgent when patience would suffice. The market does not punish ignorance. It punishes poor timing of emotion. This is why intelligence alone is a weak advantage. Intelligence accelerates decision-making. It does not guarantee restraint. In fact, it often makes restraint harder. The smarter the mind, the more convincing the justifications. Stories form quickly. Narratives lock in. Ego attaches to outcomes. The market has no interest in your reasoning. It only responds to collective behavior. Every cycle begins quietly. That is why it is missed. The recovery phase never feels like opportunity. It feels fragile, uncertain, undeserving. Prices rise without celebration. Optimism is mocked. The past still hurts too much to trust the future. This is where wealth is built, but it feels like hesitation, not confidence. Then comes expansion. Prices accelerate. Skepticism fades. Stories return. The language changes. Risk becomes innovation. Speculation becomes vision. At this stage, participation increases not because value is compelling, but because exclusion feels uncomfortable. This is where money is made on paper and endangered in reality. Finally, something breaks. It is rarely what people expect. It is often small, poorly understood, dismissed until it cannot be ignored. Liquidity dries up. Correlations rise. Forced decisions replace voluntary ones. Panic enters not as fear, but as urgency. This is where mistakes become permanent. Afterwards, explanations multiply. Books are written. Lessons are announced. Most are forgotten by the time the next cycle begins. The tragedy is not that cycles repeat. It is that people refuse to notice where they are inside them. They want prediction, not orientation. They want certainty, not probability. They ask what will happen next instead of asking what this phase usually demands of behavior. The quiet geometry of money is not about forecasting dates or calling tops. It is about recognizing conditions. It asks a different question. What is this environment designed to reward, and what is it designed to punish? In some phases, action is rewarded. In others, restraint is. In some, risk-taking builds future returns. In others, it destroys them. The environment does not explain itself. It simply reacts. Those who thrive are not faster. They are not louder. They are not more informed. They are better aligned. They understand that markets breathe. They inhale confidence and exhale fear. They expand narratives and contract reality. They oscillate between excess and regret. This movement is not random. It is human. Once you see this, urgency fades. You stop reacting to every movement. You stop needing to be right every day. You stop mistaking motion for meaning. You begin to observe. Observation is the beginning of discipline. Discipline is the beginning of survival. Survival is the prerequisite for wealth. This book is not about exploiting markets. It is about coexisting with them. About learning their tempo instead of fighting it. About recognizing that the greatest advantage available to any investor is not information, leverage, or brilliance, but temperament matched to time. The market is not wild. It is patient. And it waits for those who refuse to be rushed. Chapter 2. Why most people lose money. The same way, most financial losses feel personal. They are not. They feel unique because they happen to us, in our time, under our circumstances. The market environment feels unprecedented. The technology feels new. The language feels modern. The explanations feel specific. But the mistake beneath them is ancient. People do not lose money in original ways. They lose it in repeated patterns, dressed in contemporary clothing. Every generation believes it is the exception. Every generation believes it has finally understood the system well enough to escape the errors of the past. And every generation, eventually, proves otherwise. The market does not invent new ways to humble people. It reuses the old ones. What changes is not behavior, but confidence in behavior. In the early stages of a cycle, losses are rare. Caution feels unnecessary. Memory of pain fades faster than logic would suggest. Stories begin to replace data. Conviction rises not because risk has fallen, but because outcomes have been favorable long enough to feel permanent. This is where most financial damage begins, not with greed, but with comfort. Comfort erodes vigilance. It dulls the sense of proportion. Small successes feel like proof of insight. Repetition feels like mastery. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, behavior shifts. Positions grow larger. Margins of safety shrink. Time horizons shorten. Risk becomes normalized. At no point does this feel reckless. That is the danger. Losses rarely come from dramatic decisions. They come from gradual misalignment. Across decades and continents, the same errors appear again and again. People buy late, not because they are foolish, but because waiting has become painful. They sell early, not because they are disciplined, but because relief feels like wisdom. They hold losses too long, not because they believe, but because admitting error feels like identity damage. They chase trends, not because they lack originality, but because isolation is uncomfortable. These behaviors are not signs of stupidity. They are signs of being human. The market exploits no weakness more reliably than the need to feel safe at the wrong time. At market peaks, safety feels social. Everyone agrees. Validation is everywhere. Risk is invisible precisely because it is shared. This is why people buy most aggressively when future returns are lowest. It feels responsible. It feels prudent. It feels like participation in progress. At market lows, safety feels solitary. Agreement disappears. Silence replaces confidence. Risk becomes exaggerated because fear is no longer diluted by the crowd. This is why people sell most desperately when opportunity is greatest. It feels necessary. It feels protective. It feels like survival. The symmetry is cruel, but consistent. What makes this repetition remarkable is not that people fail to learn, but that they learn the wrong lesson. After losses, people vow to be more careful. They promise to avoid risk. They commit to caution. But caution without context becomes paralysis. When opportunity returns quietly, it is ignored because it does not look like redemption. It looks like uncertainty. Then, when confidence finally feels justified again, behavior swings to the opposite extreme. Risk returns under a different name. Exposure increases under the guise of conviction. And the cycle resets. This pattern is visible in every era. The tools change. The tempo accelerates. The narratives evolve. But the emotional sequence remains intact. Optimism, justification, excess, denial, shock, regret. It is tempting to believe that better information would fix this. That more data, more charts, more insight would immunize people against error. But history suggests the opposite. Information accelerates behavior. It does not correct it. In fact, the more informed people feel, the more confident they become in acting at exactly the wrong moment. The problem is not lack of knowledge. It is misplaced certainty. Markets punish certainty because certainty collapses optionality. When people feel sure, they stop listening. When they stop listening, they stop adjusting. When conditions change, as they always do, rigidity becomes fragility. This is why flexibility outperforms brilliance over time. The investor who survives cycles is rarely the most intelligent person in the room. They are the most self-aware. They recognize when emotion is masquerading as logic. They notice when agreement feels too comfortable. They sense when their own confidence is being borrowed from recent outcomes rather than grounded in conditions. They understand that feeling right is often the prelude to being wrong. Most people lose money the same way because they misunderstand the nature of risk. They believe risk is external, something that happens to them. In reality, risk is internal. It arises from how one behaves when conditions change. Risk increases when patience disappears. Risk increases when leverage feels harmless. Risk increases when past success is projected indefinitely forward. By the time risk becomes visible, it is usually irreversible. The market does not announce danger. It whispers it, then ignores you. This is why generational wealth is rare. Not because opportunities are scarce, but because restraint is fragile. Wealth requires alignment across time. Loss requires only one sustained period of misjudgment. What ultimately separates those who endure from those who repeat the same mistakes is not superior forecasting. It is an acceptance of limitation. They accept that they cannot predict precisely. They accept that they will feel uncomfortable at the right moments. They accept that the market will test their temperament more than their intellect. And because they accept this, they build systems, psychological and financial, that protect them from themselves. They do not ask, "What is everyone doing?" They ask, "What does this phase usually tempt people to do, and why?" That question alone neutralizes many errors. The market is not adversarial. It does not seek to defeat you. It simply reflects behavior back at scale. Those who fail do so not because they were unlucky, but because they were out of phase with themselves. The repetition of loss across generations is not evidence of futility. It is evidence of a lesson still being offered. The same way, over and over, until it is learned.